Hey, what's up, everybody? Steve Billington here, and I'm your host for another episode of the Campfire Conversations podcast. I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Got a great show for you. But before I bring on my guest, I just want to tell you that this show is brought to you by Trash Panda Decals. Trash Panda Decals makes the best tin tags on the market. There's really no question they are the best. You can find them at tintags.com. And without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on. We've got Thad Moody with us tonight of Thad Moody Outdoors. How's it going, buddy?
What's up?
That's my best intro so far. I kept it like under a minute because the first two podcasts, I have rambled on about how great my company is. So I tried to make a conscious effort this time to be like, wrap it up. How
Shoot,
you doing tonight, man?
dude, just living life. We're ready for this cold weather to be gone.
Oh my God, it was in like the 20s the last couple days, and like they were threatening snow, and it had been in the 60s like the last 2 weeks. And fake spring, you always know it's fake, but
Oh
it
yeah,
gets your hopes up anyway. And so today, I spent like the whole day in the house. I had the heat cranked up. I was like, I'm not going out there. I'm not suffering. I'm just going to work on orders. And then it was like 4 o'clock. I finally stepped outside, and it was like 57 degrees.
dude,
And I was like, it
it's
wasn't supposed to be warm yet.
no, I can't stand it.
I should
Is
have
this
gone
live on
fishing.
Facebook too, or is it just or live on YouTube?
Yep, live on Steve Billington Fishing YouTube and Steve Billington Fishing Facebook.
Okay, I don't think it's going live on your YouTube yet
Oh, that's weird. Let's take a look real quick.
because I went to look and pull up comments and there's no live showing for you.
All right, hang on. Bear with us, guys. We're going to check, make sure we don't have a technical difficulty here.
Could
I
just
better
be my awful
switch.
Mississippi internet.
Well, I'm going to switch YouTube accounts real quick so I can actually see it. Oh, let's see. Yeah, so it shows live and for watching on mine, so I think we're okay. I
Cool.
think we're streaming here. Oh, it'd help if I had the comments up. Yeah, so Yak Bass is watching on YouTube. Thanks for telling me. I did not have the comments. I'm 100% tonight. So
I don't know
why
why
you
it's not
tell
letting
the
me show it. It's got to be my awful internet here. It's not showing me. There we go. Now it's showing it live. I can pull up the
it?
comments on it.
It's that down in the bayou internet.
Dude, I'm in the middle of town in a college town here at Mississippi State where Starkville is. So I'm just like, goodness.
I have the same view of all of Mississippi, and it's basically summed up with that picture of you with the gator. Like the only place I've ever been in Mississippi that I can remember is Biloxi. So my view of your state is probably really skewed.
So yeah, no, Biloxi is I was actually that's where went to drill at for when I was Air Force Reserves. I went down to Biloxi. I actually went before I ever went to basic for weeks and weeks and weeks getting ready for security forces. I love the food down there and miss it because I'm a big scuba diver and spear fisherman. So it was just right there on the bay, and I could you can they got a dock on the back of the base. You can actually like in the brackish and saltwater, you can fish for like redfish and flounder and stuff on base.
The first time I went to Biloxi was like 3 or 4 months after the oil spill.
Oh
And
goodness.
so I'm sure my experience was vastly different because like all the beaches were closed and
Oh yeah, dude,
you know
that
it
oil spill
was
was awful. I was actually in Pensacola, Florida, right after the oil spill. Spearfishing, going on dive trips, and like we'd have like these big oil globs like float by us in the water column and stuff.
yeah, that's weird, man. It's how long so like we didn't really introduce you, but for those that don't know Thad, he's a biologist. So like how long was it, if you know, before they could like even eat the fish they were catching around there? Or like how far did that fan out? Like how far did you have to be from that area
I
where you could
mean,
safely eat them?
dude, because that happened off the Louisiana Mississippi coast, like way out the Deep Horizon is what it was called, the Deep Horizon
Hmm.
incident. And I mean, they felt stuff all the way to like the main part of Florida and all throughout the. It was huge. It was billions and billions of barrels worth of oil. I mean, it was
Man,
massive. It shut down entire fisheries, everything. And I mean, we ate the fish we shot, but it wasn't. we were still like hundreds of miles from it and still finding oil globs out there where we were.
It would be a little wild to see an oil glob go by you. But I got to be honest, if I throw the fish in the pan and it doesn't taste like Pennzoil, I'm probably going to eat it.
No doubt.
If it tastes like the underside of the car when I'm doing the oil change and I'm in the wrong spot at the wrong time, I might not swallow. But other than that, down the gullet it goes.
So across my iPad here, my buddy Steve, yeah, like one of my best friends, Steve, he's one of my fraternity brothers. He's making fun of how you pronounce Biloxi.
Oh, is it Biloxi? Not
Yes,
Biloxi?
Biloxi.
Man, listen, I'm from New Jersey. We don't know how to pronounce nothing. Kelly's always giving me a hard time, and I listen to like different podcasts, and I'll hear people say tournament instead of tournament. And every time they say tournament, I want to be like, see, Kelly? See, that's how it's like, it has an OU in it. I'll never understand how it's tournament, but that's how I say it now because, my better half has educated me on how to say it.
Depending on where I go in the country, people say I don't have an accent at all, and some people like will ask if we have running water and electricity where I'm at. I went to go speak at a conference in Kansas City, Missouri, and they were all cool until they figured out where I'm one. They go, "Where I'm from." It's like, "How do you like the electricity up here?" I was like, "I'm just surprised y'all had it, man."
How do you like the electricity? That's such a Midwest thing to say to somebody from the South.
Yeah, it was Kansas City, Missouri on the Missouri side too. So
Oh my God, Missouri. You know what? One of the things we'll get into later is stupid things that people from Missouri say that frustrate me. But like, I try to remind myself because I'm not from here. Like I said, I'm from New Jersey. I've been in Missouri for like 10 years now.
yeah,
And I always try to remind myself when I argue with people from Missouri that this is the same group of people that think it's a big deal to have an arch in a town in their state. So,
so
like,
I'm
I'll
looking at the
never understand.
comments. Yakabas, that's the Pascagoula River is how you pronounce that. That's where Pascagoula, where Jimmy Buffett's from.
Pascagoula River. I've never even heard of that one.
The Pascagoula is actually the longest undammed river system. I know for sure in the state, possibly I think the country.
Oh, no
Um,
kidding.
yeah, it's the longest undammed system. It's huge. It had no dams in it for forever.
Undammed is an accomplishment. I knew this would come up eventually, so I specifically didn't address it in the meantime. Ethan wants to know what I'm drinking out of. So Thad is a self-claimed pirate, but because he's got red hair, he's basically a Viking. So I've got my ale horn out tonight, and I have a not so proportionate mixture of whiskey and Dr. Pepper in it.
I'm
That's what
just
that's
drinking
what I'm drinking.
straight rum from Barbados down in the Caribbean. And for those who wondering, yes, I have a bright red beard, but I have like dark hair. Um,
I always forget you have dark hair because I always see you with a hat on.
yeah, it's because my hairline is like it's running really quickly from my eyebrows. I'm starting to get that Peyton Manning forehead. Uh, so
It's just like I always forget Andrew's bald until I see him with a hat on. I'm like, ah!
for real, it's
Ethan said he needs to get one of those. I had a Viking horn also that like you could blow into like the and I got it specifically for tournament launches as I thought it would be fun at like 5:30 in the morning as everybody's rolling out to stand on my kayak in the middle of the lagoon or whatever and blow on that thing. It made it to one tournament and I was asked not to bring it back.
oh, dude, I think that should be every tournament. Hey Ethan, I know you're coming out here. You gonna go fish the Power Hour down on Gunnersville the 18th of April? See what he says.
He just went to an event this past weekend. I know it didn't go the way he wanted it to, so I'm sure he's going to be looking for redemption on the
He was
next one.
fishing on Watts Bar. I hate
Watts
that.
Bar, yeah.
That lake is awful up in Tennessee.
I want to
It is
say Watts Bar is the one that I feel like that's the one Alex Rudd talks about when he talks about Alabama spotted bass and people releasing them and how it's messing up fisheries. That's one of them, isn't it?
I don't. I've never watched a ton of Alex Rudd's podcasts. Um, Fun fact: I have traced my family history back to the Vikings. Nice, Ethan.
I believe he's a Viking. I could see that.
Dude, I could too. I've met him in person. He's cool. I met him down at actually the Power Hour in Gunnersville last year.
He's real cool. He's going to be on one of the episodes coming up in
Oh,
the future
nice.
here. Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
So intro, we didn't get to do that. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Thad Moody. I've got a bachelor's degree in wildlife, fisheries, and aquaculture biology. I've got a master's degree in conservation biology, and I actually did my defense on youth involvement and participation in sport fishing and how it affects. So basically, how having a younger generation come up fill in the gaps where the older generations left off, and what's that's done to our fisheries.
Which, yeah, your work with the kids is, man, like every time you mention that, I think of Charlie, like immediately. Like
So
he,
he started my pro. He was 13 when he fished his first kayak tournament in my one of my 4-H program, and he's just taken off from there. He's like, I was only at the university for 3 years, working directly. Now I work indirectly. I still work. In fact, the conference I'm going to speak at this weekend is the Mississippi Volunteer Leadership Association, and it's all the 4-H the adult volunteers from around the state, and I'm speaking for like an hour 15 on how to start, improve, and run youth sport fishing clubs.
mhm.
So I'm still doing that, even though I no longer work with the university directly. I'm still coming back as as a spokesperson and trying to help grow our programs here because they are next. Without them, without this next generation, and I can't stand gatekeeping. Like I watch
Hmm.
these old heads who come back, and even like guys my age, a little bit older, like, oh, we don't. There's too many people. There's too many kids. Well, yeah, without them, I mean, the sport and fishery is going to die. And when bills come up to reduce our hunting rights, reduce our fishing rights, reduce a bunch of conservation efforts, we got to have that young generation voting to keep them. So if you try to keep them out of it, they're not going to care and they're not going to vote.
I've never understood that position of like, there's too many kids. Like, how could there possibly be like everybody's so comfortable with I hate using the word, but like the status quo. So like
Yeah.
your average middle-aged guy like me who gets in his boat or kayak and goes out and fishes, he's happy that he can go out and fish and he can catch crappie and fry them up or catfish or bass, whatever. But then they're the same people who will be like, there's too many kids or we don't want kids involved. Like, who do they think that we're building all this for? Like, when you look at the conservation model and all of that, like as somebody who listens to Meat Eater a lot, I think I probably hear more of it than I would if I didn't. But like hunting and fishing and stuff is constantly under attack from people that don't participate in it, don't understand it, and like it's going to be the kids that fight that fight like when we're gone. So it's so selfish to be like, I don't want kids in it or there's too many kids because like it's our lake, our woods, whatever, for like a period of time. But it doesn't belong to us. Like we're just renting it until the next generation takes over.
Oh yeah, that's Doug Duran right there. Um,
That's who said. I like as
yeah,
I was saying it, I knew that came from Meat Eater, and somebody
yeah.
had said it. It's Doug Duran. Yeah, what a
That
fascinating
he's.
individual.
I've talked to him quite a few times. He's a fantastic human being.
He really is.
So,
He's all about share the land and it's not ours. He's incredible.
and I've got two prime examples of that, one on each end of the spectrum. I like of course, you see the big bass I throw up, and people are like, "Well, where'd you catch them?" So, well, I caught them here. What does that comment say? Amen. Great kids job. Oh heck yeah. Um, but they're like, "Don't tell people where these bass are. We don't want people fishing here. There's too many kids and stuff. There's too many people here already. Yada yada yada." I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna tell them where they are. It's not mine.
Mhm.
It's not yours. The public land belongs to everyone." And
Yeah, there's definitely some spots where I just like go out of my way not to say where I am, but like it, it's everybody's. I'm not one of those people that's like, I don't want people here because it's my spot. I don't, there's some places I don't want people because it's just quiet.
oh yeah.
But like, I'm never going to be like, don't come here. It's my spot or lie to somebody if they directly ask me. I just sometimes don't advertise it.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't go my way to advertise where I'm catching them. But people ask me, I'll tell them and I'll, teach them
Hmm.
how to. And that's actually how I've got some of my sponsors is someone saw me catch a big bass during a tournament. They came their boat over to me, had their kid with them. I talked to them for a while, spoke to them. I took probably 20, 30 minutes out of my tournament time to talked to their kid and gave them some of the baits. In fact, it's when I caught that big 9-4 on that MRE underspin.
That's
And
how
that
I came
exact
to know who you were.
yeah, and that's what it was. And I gave them some of them baits, and the next thing you know, I got a call from Redfin polarized sunglasses, and the guy I wound up talking to, he was the rep for the whole state of Mississippi, the only one in the state of Mississippi. He's like, he'd be a great addition to y'all's stuff, and that's how I came to be introduced to Redfin. Um,
Hmm.
and it's weird on the opposite end of the spectrum of what I've seen with conservation and people. In college, I know there's wildlife fisheries majors who are pure vegans, stuff like that, and there's some people who I've done some jobs for recently. I mean, they're very much they can't even kill mice in their house because they don't believe in it. But I know, but they also know I hunt and fish. They ask me about it all the time. The conservation board of this is we can't do it, but we're glad there's people out there like you who do who carry on tradition, who keep the
Hmm.
population so like. So it's really weird to see hunting and fishing people who don't support getting more people out there, and then seeing the vegan people are like, "Oh, we're glad you're out there because we're not going to do it. Someone needs to."
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by the level of, well, fascination people who are not hunters, or like they people who don't do it have such a fascination with it. Even the ones that are like against it. It's like that clip in Private Parts, Howard Stern's movie, when they're like the average Stern listener listens for 2 hours or whatever, and he's like, well, how often do the people who hate him listen? He's like 6 hours. Like it's quadruple as much. And it's the same thing with people who don't hunt and fish, even the ones that are opposed to it. Like there's the ones who are opposed to it to an extreme, who are just like, it should never happen, love all living things, whatever. But the large majority of people who don't hunt and fish still recognize that like it's a role that has to be played. They just don't have the constitution or desire or whatever to carry it out. Like I stopped hunting 2 years ago, mostly just because I like to keep fishing, and I missed the hunting of it. And I'll tell you honestly, the thing that keeps me from doing it the most, I just don't feel like gutting the deer once I shoot it. I don't feel like turning the squirrels inside out once I shoot them. But like, I'm going to do it more this year because I miss having all that meat in the freezer.
Oh yeah,
So
so
I'm gonna
ninety
do
percent
it.
of the 90% of the time I do my own processing, my jerky and everything like that. But every now and then I'll take the processors here. You can drop. They charge like a $30 skinning and gutting fee, but you can drop a whole deer off here, and they'll skin it, gut it, process it for you.
Hmm. So Yak Bass said something that like on my list of things we'll talk about with biology stuff is personification. So I might be totally ignorant on this. So it's actually a really good question because you can speak to it more intelligently. But it's my understanding that like fish don't have the part of their brain that processes pain.
So
Is that
they,
true?
they do have the part of the brain that processes pain. What they don't have in some areas is the nerve endings that process it so much. So, like they're doing a lot of research, like hooks in the mouth and stuff like that. Just like you can grab that piece of skin right there, like, it's called the weenus, right here, and you can squeeze it, you can grab it, you can do it, and you feel very little pain compared to if you did it up here or right there. It's just the way the nerve endings are developed, and a lot of the study goes into that, showing it doesn't affect as much in their mouth. They don't feel the pain as much. They feel pressure, kind of like we do with under anesthesia, but not as much pain. Now, if you hook them in the back or something like that, or in the throat, deep throat, something like that, yeah, they're going to feel pain, but it's not going to be
Hmm.
nearly the same as like in the mouth. They don't. It's thin, not it's thin webbing tissue, so it's not nearly as it is versus in their backs or their bellies or deep throats like that.
That makes sense. For the audio listeners, I didn't set that up so great. So what Yak Bass said is, how would you like a hook in your lip? And that's what led me into the like, do they feel pain? And for the record, when Thad was grabbing his weenus, that was the skin on his elbow. It was not what some of the audio
Yeah.
listeners might have been
So
picturing.
I forget your it's not it goes on Spotify and stuff. So your weenus is the at the end of your elbow, that hunk of skin and area right there. That's called a weenus.
That is
And
not what I thought the weenus was.
yeah, no, it's right here on your elbow. And it's funny because for some reason my buddy cannot comment. I don't know why. Steve, um, my buddy Steve, not the host Steve. Go on Steve Billington Fishing YouTube. You can comment on there. He's like, he told me to say deep throat again.
You know, never mind. Yeah, but so on the list of like biology stuff, I wrote personification because I think all hunters and anglers do this. I think the correct word is anthropomorphizing, however the heck you say that. But like, I think all outdoorsmen do this, and it makes me chuckle a little bit. People love to give human viewpoint to the fish, especially bass. Like in bass angler will be like, well, they didn't like that lure because they didn't like, the way it looked, or they didn't bite today because they weren't feeling it. Mama bass didn't give them any last night. Like, there's just all these different things that humans like to give reasons why the fish didn't bite. When I think a lot of the times, I mean, they're just fish. Like, I
Yeah.
think that we just put way too much human trait on the fish. So from like a
So
biology standpoint, do you find that to be true? Or do you think there's a lot of overlap there?
so that's anthropomorphication. I think that's how it's pronounced. And yeah, that's him. He figured it
Yeah,
out.
we found them.
Yeah. Um, yes and no. Because I'll look at it as like, if I was a fish, would I eat this? But again, I have a different viewpoint just, from my background from studying animals and stuff like that. I have a different background than some, so I have a different mindset and viewpoint. And yes and no, I believe it because some of the stuff I've seen, these baits and stuff like that, looks like nothing biological. It looks like no food prey, really.
You mean like that Zoom one with all the stuff coming off of it? I
Yeah,
can't remember what it's
it doesn't
called.
look like anything naturally found there, but yet it may be a reaction bike, an automatic strike, or something like that. Now there is things that a fish may not be in the mood because of spawn, pre-spawn, the way things are going with them. They're because they're just like humans. They have hormones change and stuff like that when it becomes bedding season, stuff like that, spawning season. But there's also in my opinion we do put too much emphasis on if I was a fish, I would eat this. Why aren't they eating it?
Hmm.
As more of an emotional thing, as opposed to study the barometric pressure, the moon phases, and people when it comes to hunting, they've shown moon phases aren't really a thing, but when it comes to fishing, moon phases can play a huge part in it, and it played a huge part in it with Charlie when he fished in Gunnersville. All those times, it's like what's going to happen is it's was a full moon or it was the right before full moon, then it was a full moon. I was like, well, what's going to happen is it's going to be early morning bite, no bite, late afternoon bite. And the reason for that is the moon puts off so much light they can actually hunt better at night. So when it's a full moon, or a heavy moon, as I'll call it, right before a full moon, right after a full moon, it produces a bunch of light at night. They can hunt better at night. They gorge themselves and hunt at night up until the early morning. They take a break. Once their digestion and metabolism kicks back in, they're hungry again. You'll have that late afternoon bite. So on a full moon phase, when it's full moon and I'm going out fish the next day, I hit it hard early. Any fish I catch normally in between, let's say 9 o'clock and 12, I call
Hmm.
bonus fish. Then normally, from 12 to 3, usually around 1 o'clock, I'll see a heavy turn on of the fish coming back on. Just because they've had time to digest, they're ready to regorge themselves, refeed again. So you'll see that on full moons and fuller moons because they
Do you
hunt at
find
night.
that that full moon pattern gets disrupted? Like, let's say you have a full moon, but then you got cloud cover all night. Does it disrupt it, or is there something else about the full moon? Like, because when I see full moon, I think of law enforcement, and there's just something about it
Oh
that speaks
God.
to the tweakers, man. Like,
It was same
whether
thing
you're,
when I was a high school teacher. Dude, it's like there's a full moon tonight, everyone's acting crazy, and they've actually
it
proven
messes
it.
with people,
It's
so
it yeah, that's a
it
thing. I
makes you wonder what else draws them other than just the light.
I think it honestly is just the light. I think that when there's heavy cloud cover or stuff like that, I don't think they're nearly as active because as the cloud cover stays into the morning and later. up until like even 10 or 12 o'clock with heavy cloud cover, I've always seen a good bite, even on full moon nights, as
Hmm.
long as there was consistent cloud cover. Now it was back and forth, sparse, some here, some there. I don't think the cloud really affect them, but if it's a full cloud coverage night, I think it has, it does change the pattern.
The if I remember correctly, the moon study where the biologist found it didn't affect deer. I think that was a buddy of yours that did that study, but I found it because he was on Meat Eater talking about that study, and I thought it was so fascinating. And all I could think the whole time was whitetail hunters they're all tuning out. Like none of them are listening. Like they so badly. It comes down to that same kind of thing. Like they've always believed it to be true, so this scientist must not know what he's talking about because he's saying it's not true. But he proved pretty definitively that the moon didn't have jack to do with what those deer were doing.
And if I remember right, I think that was one of my former professors, Dr. Damaris. They call him the
That
deer
sounds right.
doctor. Yeah,
Yeah, Damaris sounds right.
yeah, that was he ran the deer lab here at MSU, and I actually did some research up under him. Super nice guy, super smart guy. But I mean, science is science and proof is proof. And
Yeah,
I know that a lot of stuff data can be manipulated how either side wants stuff, and politics use science and stuff. But when it comes to conservation, normally there's science is showing that proof is proof, and it's pretty accurate.
yeah. People. This is part of what we were going to get into tonight anyway, so I'll segue into it now. People get a little too anecdotal, I think is the word. So like I lived in a bunch of different states. This has been sending me on a tangent for weeks now. So I lived in a bunch of different states. And so I've seen good conservation, I've seen great conservation, and I've seen what's probably mediocre conservation. But two of the states I've been blessed to live in was Michigan and now Missouri. Two of the greatest conservation
Oh,
departments in the nation.
100%.
Missouri, so like if you round up all the experts across the nation, conservation experts, and you ask them what departments are doing the best, Missouri and Michigan will always be in the top five. And Missouri is almost always in the top three, like one of the best regarded conservation. So, like, I lose my mind on social media. And so I don't know what it must be like for you because I don't have the education that you do. But like, I see these comments from, uh, so the word ignorant in our society is taken too much as an insult these days. Ignorant, if you look up the definition, really just means you have a lack of knowledge about something. It's not an insult. It just means you're not educated on it. So I use that word a lot with people I see in the comment sections because people love to bash Missouri Department of Conservation. Though you'll see older guys bash them with turkeys, younger guys bash them with deer and fish, and like a lot of people around Missouri just don't understand how blessed they are and how good our conservation department has it. But everybody wants to take the point being, everybody wants to take these anecdotal observations like, oh, well, these fish can't be a problem in this lake, or these fish are a problem because I catch them on my crankbait constantly, or, well, crappie numbers are down because I don't catch as many as I used to, and they want to bash the department and the practices and say they favor these lakes or don't. And it's just an ignorant understanding of what's going on. And like, by God, we got one of the best departments in the world.
So I can speak highly to the Missouri Department of Conservation. I worked in conjunction with them doing bear research back in 2012. I actually lived in between bull shoals. I saw yak bass bull shoals phenomenal. I lived in between bull shoals and Norfolk Lakes, Caney Mountain Reserve, doing black bear research on the genetics to make sure their populations were high enough to help lead to the getting a bear season there in Missouri. I worked under a PhD named Clay Wilton, super brilliant guy.
Yep, I
But
know that name.
Missouri, yeah, he's actually a Michigan guy.
Is he?
He's from yeah, he's from Michigan, and he did his PhD down here at Mississippi State. But Missouri Department of Wildlife and Fisheries is, in my opinion, the end all be all when it comes to conservation, their research and stuff. And one reason they're so well funded is they have a tax. It's like 1% of 1% or a tenth of a percent of all, everything you buy you pay taxes on goes to conservation.
Hmm.
So they had the great funding of it. And people are like, well, these lakes are this, these lakes are that. And what they don't understand, same thing here in Mississippi. Now, Mississippi Department of Wildlife Fisheries and Parks, I think it's flat. I used, I've worked for them before. I will probably never work for them because I've been outspoken against them. The way they manage stuff, and it's not the biologist's fault. It's not the scientist's fault. It's the people over them because in Mississippi, the top five guys who make all the decisions are governor appointees,
Yeah,
and
it's all
not a single
political.
yeah, not a single one of them have a background in conservation. And one actually got a ticket for poaching turkeys, for baiting turkeys here last year. So I'll probably never work for him, and that's okay. I've come to terms with that. But here, people complain about the crappie because we had 9 of the top 10 crappie lakes in the world for a long time. And Missouri's got
Hmm.
great crappie fishing too. But federal core lakes, such as here is Aka Butler, Enid, Sardis, Grenada, places like that, they have no control of the water levels, and it's all flood
Yeah.
lakes. And the Corps does not care about fish. They do not care about the fishing there. They do not care about anything, even though it's a $1 billion industry in Mississippi. They don't
Yeah, you
care.
never hear people giving the Corps any blame. It's
Yeah,
always MDC.
yeah. And the cores control the water level. So if they draw them down so far, the crappie can't spawn like they used to in preparation for floods and stuff of the Mississippi Delta, or in your case, the Boot Hill and stuff like that. It's
Hmm.
not the state conservation's fault. All they can do is set limits and stuff like that. They cannot control what the Corps does with the water, limiting, breeding habitat, spawning, and stuff like that. There's nothing they can do about that.
They do it
Now,
with Mark Twain Lake by me all the time. They'll like, we won't even get a ton of rain. We'll get like a little bit of rain. It's all about dam generation with us, is what it is. They claim other things, but they'll like the water level will finally be ideal, and then they'll drop it so far they'll be like, hey, by the way, we're pulling docks. We don't have enough water. And it's like, well, then stop letting all the water out. But like last year or the year before, I'm pretty sure it was this past year, the walleye were really struggling in Mark Twain Lake. The thermocline was all jacked, and people were bashing MDC. And I'm sitting back looking at it. I'm like, what do you want MDC to do? Like, they can't change the water level fluctuation, and that's where the problem is.
well, and here's the thing too: the biologists can put in everything they want to. They can put all the facts out, and stuff like that. And the people above them may look at it, and they, again, it's all political. They
Hmm.
may look at it and be like, "No," and change everything, even opposed to what the biologists say. And you see that a lot here in Mississippi. And it's crazy because I'm trying to think. There's a hydroelectric dam due west of Bull Shoals because we used to go fishing for walleye and stripers when I lived there. I cannot think of the name of it.
You talking about Truman?
Yeah, it's Truman. That's it. No, 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 not Truman Lake.
There,
Um,
we have Truman, Lake of the Ozarks, which is
so
like
this is
Bushnell
on
or
like the
whatever,
Arkansas
Ragnall.
border. Um,
Oh God, I'm gonna need help from the comment section on that one.
um,
Brett Southman might know.
yeah, like Bull Shoals, Norfolk, and all I was at. It's all where I lived at was literally 6 miles from the Arkansas border.
There's
Um,
Table Rock, that's down there
Table Rock was
somewhere.
north of us actually,
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure
and
which one that is.
there's a great it's the White River. Well, the White River goes to Missouri, and there was this great fishing thing where it runs to Norfolk, and a huge flood came through. What they Someone said something.
It says at Taneycomo.
I think it is Taneycomo. It's right there's a college right down from it too. It's a great little like private college. That's huge wildlife people.
I figured Southland would know.
Yeah, Taneycomo. That was it. And this part of the river, we used to like wade across, fish it, stuff like that. It was like 5 foot deep, maybe 50 yards wide, and a huge flood came through, knocked out one of the dams, and now it's like 70, 80, 100 yards wide, 20, 30 foot deep, and the stripers are running it now since the one dam that's preventing them is just wiped out completely. And it is they're destroying the trout population up
That
in
probably is Taneycomo. That's a big trout lake
Yeah,
or
it
river or
was
whatever
on.
it's
Well, no, this
considered.
is this is on the North Fork on the White River. The one I'm talking about now.
Oh,
Taneycomo is the
gotcha.
hydroelectric dam I was talking about. This is on
Sorry.
the North Fork on the White River, and we used to fish all the time for walleye and smallmouth and giant, those hickory shad and stuff like that. And now it's just completely different. And Bluffline Media did a huge video on it because you used to like walk down and stuff. Now it's just sheer cliff walls. It did so much damage. That giant, it's
Man.
like they call it like a 10,000 year flood and just wipe stuff out.
And there's no putting that genie back in the bottle.
Oh no, it's not at
Like
all.
look at what we've done to some of these like in the Northwest, the dams and stuff have created these problems for the salmon runs and stuff.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's like we can't go back. I mean, we could in theory, but like we can't go back and like take these dams and stuff out. So a big part of it is just like not doing more damage. But again, like you said, it's not like I think MDC does a pretty good job. The outside perspective, they seem to have a pretty solid handle on managing their stuff without like a ton of interference. But there's a lot of sections of the country where conservation can be like, hey, we really can't do this and this. We shouldn't do this and this. Let's do this and this. And then political pressure or whatever, they'll just be like, no, we're not going to do that. Let's just build a bunch of dams. Like they don't always
that's the
get
thing too.
to
Is
say.
because you get political pressure from funding and everything like that. Because ours has to go through the legislature to get money, and everybody knows how governments work. People throw money
Mm-hmm.
at it. They want certain things done. It's ridiculous. I think politics should stay strictly out of conservation. It's horrible.
100%.
But one thing you can't control is the stupidity of people, the ignorance of people. And and I'm not talking about them not being informed. I'm talking about like people putting spotted bass where they're not supposed to be, because spotted bass,
Oh my
they,
God. Yeah. Bucket
look,
biology, man.
dude, spotted bass, they can mate with largemouth, they can mate with smallmouth, they can mate with shoal bass, and 3 or 4
Mm-hmm.
generations, that mean mouth or whatever would just be a pure spot again. It's their genes just overpower everything. They can wherever they go, they take over everything.
Yeah, they're a dominating force. Like the bucket biology is the worst. Like
Oh
Alabama spotted bass, hogs, and then the worst part is like hogs are a good example of it, but it applies to the fish too. You get them in an area, and then industry forms around them. So, like, if you were to take a place that's heavy in feral hogs and being, like, quote unquote, destroyed by it, they would say, yeah, get all these hogs out of here. But then at the same time, like, but not all of them because,
yeah.
my guide service relies on it or this. And you got people throwing them in trailers and bringing them places that they weren't at before. Like,
Oh, dude,
bucket
I saw a guy. There
biology,
was a guy
man.
transporting live wild hogs, which is illegal in Mississippi. What's that comment? Say you just put up water
So,
supply
what?
needs are helping. Oh yeah, for example, for sure. Um, but he was transporting live wild hog. I called the game warden on him. I was like, "Well, you shouldn't have done that. He got in trouble." It's like, "Well, yeah,
He should
you
get in
know,
trouble.
I got family who are farmers, and they lose thousands of dollars that crop insurance sometimes can't even cover, for
Yeah.
wild hog damage from
Yeah.
people.
People don't
They were
realize how those things
transporting them
tear.
to their hunting club because they want to hunt other stuff. I was like, well, that's dumb. I can't stand a wild pig. But
They taste good, though.
they're delicious. And I killed one that was right at 450 pounds here on
Woo.
a national on the national right on the national forest. Pure
That's a
wild boar.
tank.
Oh, dude, it
Yeah.
was.
And I'm the first one to be like, bucket biology is stupid. But would I be mad if there were some feral hogs in my area that I could just go shoot whenever I wanted? Maybe not. So like I get it, but man, you can't move wildlife like that.
Yeah,
And the Alabama spotted bass are just becoming an epidemic. They're
oh, they
worse than
are.
the carp at
And
this point.
as far as like wild hogs, I've actually had them like come in the river after me. I've had friends chase up trees by wild hogs off fishing. I carry a Glock 20, which is a 10 mil, with me when I go fishing the river here, because of wild pigs.
I mean, I carry my 9 millimeter mostly because of, Cletus, but
Oh yeah,
the I would
dude,
carry
I
for the
feel
big.
that. We were talking that day, and the guys at one of the lakes I fish here, the old trailer park pharmacists, as I like to refer to them, tried to steal my rims and tires off my truck.
It's wild, and like there's one place here in Missouri. I won't say where it is because it's somebody's honey hole, and some people know where it is. But there is literally a lake that's got beautiful bass in it. But like you'd pretty much know if you park your vehicle there, it's going to get broken into. Like it's
So
it's constant. It's like every day. So like I
we
don't go there.
we were fishing a kayak tournament on one of our major lakes here. It's actually a St. Jude tournament, and in the main damn parking lot that had the headquarters, the core headquarters in it, they caught people stealing catalytic converters out from under people's cars, and we were launching like on this old dirt road that went into it because it was an anywhere public launch. And what
Yeah.
we wound up doing is parking our trucks to where the water was like 2 inches below the door. So they would have to like be able to hold their breath forever to cut our catalytic converters off. So we parked our
That's
trucks in the water.
that's not a bad idea because tweakers will do a lot of stuff. I don't know if they'll hold their breath. I don't know if
Yeah,
they
for
can.
real. But as far as bass goes, that bucket biology, in some lakes, in some rivers and stuff out west, there are all kinds of bounties on smallmouth and largemouth and spotted bass and stuff
Hmm.
like that, and rainbow trout. People talk about all our native trout species. There's a few. I think it's the brown trout's not a native anywhere in America. It's from Germany. Largemouth bass are not native anywhere west of the Mississippi River. Neither are
It
spotted
always blows
bass.
people's mind. People don't
Yes.
realize what their native range used to be.
Yeah, smallmouth and spotted bass, I believe, are also not native west of the Mississippi. I don't think any black bass species really is native west of the Mississippi.
No, they're all. Do they still consider that? Like, I guess they don't ever call them it, but they are technically invasive on that side of the river.
Yeah, I
But I
know
don't think they
invasive. So
look at them
you
that way.
have there's different categories of invasive people talk about. There's native invasives and they're non-native invasives. Largemouth has to be a native invasive for a large part of it because you've got the north. Technically, Mississippi is supposed to have was predominated by the northern strain largemouth, even though
Hmm.
we're right on the edge of the Florida strain line, if I remember looking at all that correctly. But we have a ton of lakes up here with Florida strain, and then of course you go to the F1s and tiger bass and all that. But there's so many different variations they found of of bass species, like the different types of shoal bass, the Alabama bass, the spotted different types of spotted bass. There's Kentucky spotted bass, Tennessee, Alabama spotted bass,
Hmm.
Florida strain bass, Florida largemouth, northern largemouth, variations of spots, variations of smallmouth. There's
They
all
all
kinds
they
of
all look like large and smallmouth to me.
and there's subtle ways to tell them all apart. Your average fisherman, your average person, doesn't know how. They'll hold something. Was like, oh, I caught this. That's a spotted bass. Well, how do you know? It's like, well, I can tell by the gill structures, or you rub the tongue. There's the tooth patch on the tongue, which
Yeah,
every now and
sometimes
then,
you'll see me out there like this, like, and just trying to see if the tongue is smooth or not.
yeah. Poor bass, he getting his mouth
Sometimes you
stung.
got to violate them a little. My buddy Trey says you got to squeeze the butthole like when you're in a tournament. He swears it's like an extra quarter of an inch if you just like you don't have to stick anything in there, but he just
God.
I think he learned it in prison and it just helps him get that out.
You
But
do
he said
whatever makes him feel better.
yeah, he just says you massage that butthole and gives you an extra quarter inch. And he
Wow.
wonders why he has a hard time keeping their mouths closed. It's because he's
Yeah, they're
pushing
going,
on their
ah.
butthole. But like you mentioned like a smallmouth having a bounty out west. I can't imagine how hard it must be for bass anglers to actually like dispatch them because we have the problem here. There it's like a cult thing like the smallies, but we have a huge problem here in Missouri where the DNR wants you to kill the snakeheads, like on site kill them. And our problem isn't people being like, no, love the snakeheads. Our problem is people are like, well, I didn't kill it because it's a bowfin, or don't kill that, it's a bowfin. And you've got people dispatching bowfin thinking they're
Snakeheads.
snakeheads, and you got more people releasing snakeheads thinking they're bowfin. And then you got the guys releasing snakeheads because they want snakeheads because they think that's a good idea. They don't realize how many fish cakes they're missing out on.
Dude, snakehead I've heard is so good. And here's the thing about
So good.
snakeheads up north, and even in Florida, all the research I've seen, and especially like in the Maryland area, where Andrew and them from, and the Chesapeake Bay area, and all those, and even Jersey and stuff. You have these snakeheads that they're like, oh, they're going to wipe out the bass population. The bass population has, if you look at statistics and you look at size and length and stuff like that, it has drastically helped the largemouth population, which is an invasive species as well. In a
Uh
lot of
huh.
places, you find snakehead, largemouth bass. Well, snakehead are invasive, so are your bass. You know,
Yeah, people don't want to hear that. The
yeah,
almighty bass can't be questioned.
exactly. Yeah, almighty bass can't be questioned. You know, I love largemouth bass. I have made a living at points in my life off of largemouth bass, management ponds, fishing, stuff like that. I love bass. I do. And you see, just like that Damien Towel, that giant, almost 19-pound bass caught in California. Those bass
That
aren't
thing
supposed
was
to be there.
wild.
It was, but like the California pike minnows and stuff like that were native to the bass is pretty much wiped out in some places. And there's some places the pike minnow is not supposed to be anymore. It got bucket biologyed over, and it's wiping out native
Hmm.
species. All kinds of trout out there. The rainbows and the browns and the brooks and stuff are wiping out the cutthroats, and then the steelheads, the pelagic steelheads, or not pelagic, but the ones that go from salt to freshwater steelheads and migratory
Yeah.
steelheads. So people, you have your trout guys who are hardcore, your bass guys who are hardcore, your smalley guys, your largemouth guys, your spotted bass guys, your snakehead people, all hardcore, and they don't realize that none of those fish are probably supposed to be in the areas for what you're catching. Now, I'm sorry. If you want
Well,
stuff like they're not naturally here, well, if you could snap your fingers and put all the fish species back naturally in America where they're supposed to be, Bassmaster MLF would never leave the southeast.
yeah, and that's the sad part is a lot of us would be like, well, we don't really want to snap that finger. We just want y'all to stop what you're doing now.
Yeah,
Like, don't Thanos the largemouth, but hey, could you stop moving the Bama bass?
yeah. And some species I eat bass. I catch
I love
flat.
them. They're so good. People say they
Dude,
don't taste good. They're
a
so good.
14-inch largemouth, 14 inch and down largemouth tastes as good as just about any crappie I've had.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I love how mad people get in my content when I keep one and cook it.
oh yeah, dude.
Just makes me want to do it more.
If you want to rage bait so people get some views, cook a largemouth bass. It is hilarious. And if
I'm
y'all
gonna
keep
cook a
seeing me,
smallmouth this year.
oh yeah, no, that'll get you a death threat, man.
So last year, I really made some people mad. I took a smallmouth. It was like a 13 or 14 inch, and I told the camera I was keeping it and made it look like I threw it in the cooler. I released it and I put a largemouth in the cooler, and I just cut the video to be like pan frying that thing. People were so mad, and I was like, guys, I didn't keep the smallie. Like I get it. I've got the smallie bug. I love catching them. You have to harvest some bass,
Oh yeah,
like there has to be harvest, but maybe not in the smallmouth.
yeah. Smallmouth just takes forever to grow. They really do, and they
Yeah, like
don't.
that 20 and a half I caught, we figured that thing was what, like probably 19, 20 years old.
It's probably 15 plus years old easily.
Yeah.
And the people who are watching out there in YouTube land and Facebook land, y'all keep seeing me adjust. I have a new camera set up, so mount, and I'm trying to figure it out as we go.
I've adjusted mine like 10 times. I also keep kicking the desk and then it shakes like there's a Missouri earthquake going on. So we're not very professional here on the podcast. We drink and we mess up our camera angles. That's what we do.
Look, it's so weird, being in the position I'm in, especially since I've left. I don't work for federal agency anymore. I don't work for a state agency anymore. I've
It's
actually
kind of
gone back.
freeing.
Dude, it is so freeing because when I work for, the university, or when I work for the feds, or when I work for the state agency, I could not, even if the data showed that one thing, I could not speak out saying that was correct. I had to speak out, and be in line with what the university said, what the state said, and what the Fed said. Because a
Hmm.
lot of times they're not, they all have three different opinions. And now I can kind of say what I want to. And I've got some former colleagues of mine who would tell me, it's like, hey, say this. We can't say it. Say this. I was like, okay, I'll say it. People
Yeah.
don't want they don't want to know they found snakehead here in Mississippi multiple times now. I actually want to go try and catch some. They don't want to say this and that, and I mean I can say it. The worst that's going to happen is I lose a sponsor over it, and so be it. You know, I don't have a ton of sponsors anyway, and I fished before I had them and did well, and I fished after I have them.
Hmm.
And I mean, I have respect for every sponsor I have, every partnership I have, and there's not any I would really want to lose. But if it comes to the point where I can't speak scientific truth because it may go against what they believe or something like that. Even though it is, this pure scientific truth, at that point, I'm not going to step in line anymore with that. The truth's the truth. Scientific data is data.
Ethan's got a good question. He said 18 inch is the limit here in Tennessee for smallmouth. How old is an 18 inch typically? I have an idea, but never really asked a biologist.
Um, I've not done a ton of work with smallmouth on aging them. And a lot of it depends on where they are. Up north, they have a slower growing season compared to what we do here down south. And that has a lot to do with, weather, going to dormancy during the winters and stuff like that. We have a much larger growing season. That's why our largemouth are bigger. And technically, a lot of times our smallmouth are bigger. They're just not a dominant species here.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was guessing, Ethan, if you caught that in the area of Tennessee, for which I think I remember you are, that 18
Yeah.
inch is probably pushing about 10 to 12 years old, if I just had to guess.
That kind of tracks. Like here in Missouri, at the rivers and fisheries that have smallmouth, they'll have a sign that says from the Missouri Department of Conservation, they're like how long it takes to grow a smallmouth, and they've got like a chart. And for 18 inch, Missouri Department of Conservation says it takes about 10 plus years. So
Yeah.
I say that tracks pretty much the same as kind of what
And
you're
the
saying.
only true way to tell what a fish is, I mean, you can pull a scale and you can you can look at a scale through a magnifying glass or a microscope decently well and get plus plus or minus 2 years, but that still gives you a 4 to 5 year span. The only true way to age a fish is one, you tag it when you release it, and you know exactly how old it is, or
Hmm.
two, you kill it and you pull the occipital bone, the ear bone they have, and they grow rings on 'em like a tree. You look under a microscope. That's the most definitive way to tell how old a wild fish is. Unfortunately, you have to dispatch that fish in order to gain that knowledge.
So what I'm hearing is the next time I catch like a 20 plus inch smallmouth, because I will this year, I should eat it because I need to check that bone anyway and see how old it was.
I mean, as long as it's within state regulations of harvestable, yes. We have some of our lakes on here in Mississippi that you cannot keep a largemouth in between. Some of them are 16 to 22 inches. You can keep one over 22 inches,
We
which is a
have
big fish.
we definitely have some fisheries that have slot limits on bass. There's some you go where it doesn't really have one, but their slot kind of, not that I would eat the smallmouth, but their slot kind of falls in line with what nationally is accepted as the right. Like it's usually somewhere in like the 13 to 15 inch range is kind of like, hey, if you're gonna keep one and eat it, this is what we want you to keep.
Oh,
Like they don't want,
100%. You
because
know,
you got to cull some of them out to have, like, people don't understand. Everybody's like, let it go so it can grow, which is great, but you got to eat some of them or you're
yeah,
gonna like stun them.
catch and release is the worst thing to ever happen to bass fishing. And here's why.
Yeah, we went way too far. We were on one side and we've gone way too far the other direction.
Yeah. So here's why catch and release out there in internet land. This is why catch and release has ruined bass fishing. And on the Kissimmee chain, you used to see a bunch of 10 pounders. You don't see it anymore.
Hmm.
California, it wasn't nothing to catching 17, 18 pound fish. You'd hear one every single year, a couple of them. You don't see it anymore. Here's why. Catch and release ruined it because that body of water has a finite biomass for which it can sustain.
Hmm.
That means only X amount of food can be produced, X amount of forage can be produced in that lake. In Mississippi, on average, it takes 10 pounds of forage fish per 1 pound of bass to get that fish to the next poundage weight. So
Which
if
is a
you've got
lot when you stop and think about it.
it is. So if you've got a 5 pound bass, it needs in between 50 and 60 pounds of forage fish that year to make it from 5 pounds to 6 pounds just to
Yep.
maintain. And it can go down in weight if it doesn't get it. So if you have a 1 10 pound bass, you need 100 to 120 pounds of brim or shad in order to make it to that 11 pound mark. So if you've got 100 fish in there, all 1 pound, you need, let's say you have a 1 acre pond. You have 100 bass in there. In order to
Hmm.
get every one of those fish up to 2 pound mark, you need 200 pounds of forward fish. Or if you have one 10 pound bass, you need 110 pounds of forage fish. So if you take out a bunch of those smaller bass, you allow your larger bass to continue to grow and spawn out and spawn more. Now, if you're harvesting bass, I highly recommend don't harvest a ton in between, depending on where you are. March to the end of May. After the end of May, take whatever you want. That ensures the
Yep.
spawn happens. A lot of your bucks, your male bass are smaller. Even the Lunker program in Texas, the largest male they've ever gotten was only 9 pounds, which is a monstrous male. Most of them stay 4 pounds and less. So if you're going to harvest fish, I'm all about it. I harvest bass all the time. I give them to people all the time to eat. There's families who need them. I will harvest a ton of fish and give it away. If you're going to harvest bass, harvest it harvest it before December and after May. That allows you to spawn the next
Yep.
generation to come up because they will self cannibalize too.
Usually from like usually once you get in that summer slump, that's when I like to start keeping them. So usually from like June until the water freezes. Like I'm blessed. I get to fish a couple days a week, so I don't harvest a lot. But I'll go out, 2 or 3 days a week, and in the summer, I'll keep, 2 or 3 bass on one of those trips or over the course of those trips, and uh, I never keep any of the bass I submit to any of the events. So like kayak jacks event where you track your stuff all year. I probably have another 100 inches on there I never claimed simply because those ones made it to the frying pan. But I have like a couple of lakes that I fish all the time. And one of them I noticed a couple of years ago, quality of the bass started going down a little bit. And it's a particular lake where something happened to it, I don't know, 50 years ago or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of people that are paranoid to eat from that lake. You know how that like local lore just
Oh
kind of
yeah,
goes on and
mercury
on and
level.
on.
And I will, as someone who's had mercury poisoning from eating too much fish and giving that too much fish was canned tuna. I kind of do feel that.
Yeah, this one had I want to say it was like a septic leak or something like that. And it was a long time ago. And we call it infection lake in my friend circle because I fell in and cut up my leg pretty bad when my Hobie flipped over. And so when I got home, I showered like I normally would. And then I just dumped some peroxide down my leg, which is like my usual way of treating things. And my fiance, who's a nurse, was like, I don't know. She said things, I didn't listen to them. And then, like 2 weeks later, if it was even that long, she was like, wow, that doesn't look great. It looks like you got, not dermatitis or whatever the heck she called it. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I think it's fine. And so then my buddy, who's an EMT, I sent him a picture and I was like, hey, does this like look angry? And so long story short, it ended up getting very hot, like to the touch. And
Ooh.
so I drew around it with a Sharpie because that's what my EMT buddy told me to do. And it spread outside the Sharpie. I ended up in the emergency room and had to go through like 3 different antibiotics before they found one that worked. And so she's never let that go because I listened to the EMT and not the nurse. But the point of the story was that lake, obviously, you can get that kind of infection from any lake. But we call that infection lake. There's like all this stigma around it from the locals. So nobody harvests bass out of it. But like you can catch them and you can catch a 21-inch bass and that thing weighs like 2.5 pounds.
Oh yeah, you'll see
I,
'em, 7 pound head, 3 pound body. You see that a lot.
Yeah,
Hey,
I harvest a lot of fish out of there, and I don't eat them all at once. Like I spread it out, but like it's never made me sick. And if more people would harvest bass from that fishery, the quality would come back up.
and honestly, what and this sounds really bad, even from my aspect of it, is harvest them out. And if you know someone who is in need, there's a lot of guys who are in need. See, same principle of deer management when you're trying to kill big bucks. Yeah, Ethan, the prime ratio to grow your biggest bucks is 1 buck to 1 doe, which you'll never reach. But if you can get to 1 to 3, you grow your biggest bucks just because of forage lines, and you'll see that.
If you
Um,
don't kill the right bucks, Doug Durham makes you wear a sombrero of shame.
yeah,
You ever see
that's
the
true. He
big
does.
hat?
Um, but I'll harvest bass. I will, take a ton of bass, and even the old man or something like that, he don't want to clean. Like, I don't feel like cleaning them. I eat them, but I don't feel like cleaning. I'll clean them for them. I don't care. It's they're getting eaten and stuff like that.
Man, people are missing out on how good a black bass is, like a largemouth, when you just gut it, scale it, and put it on a fire.
Oh yeah,
Treat it like a trout. It's
yeah,
so
no
good.
doubt, no doubt. And what I do around here, when I was working for the extension service directly with MSU, and I was running the 4-H program here for the local counties, I would find the farmers I work with is like, well, my pond is super overpopulated. What I do is like, well, we can throw some rotenone in it, which kills a portion of it. We
Hmm.
can You can catch a bunch and throw in the bank and let them die, or you can let a bunch of kids come out here, catch a ton of your bass, let them do a clean and cook at home, or we cook them here, and that will solve both the problems of kids getting kids outdoors and your bass problem. And 9 out of 10 times I got a when do you want to come? And nine
Yep.
and 10 out of 10 of those farmers or those that I work with as families, when we came, they were hospitable. Some of them even like grilled out. They went out of their own pocket, bought food, burgers, hot dogs, and stuff like that, and cooked out for the kids and their families. Because some of these, I would take
Bring
families
the
and
fryer
kids.
down to the pond.
Yeah, I would take, these people out, some of these inner city kids who's never experienced the outdoors, they'd catch their first fish. Their grandpa or grandma who fished forever, it's a way for them to bond and they start fishing and stuff like that. There was probably 30 or 40 people I've watched catch their first fish through my program, which is an absolute thing for me. And I got grants and stuff. So once I got these families in, the kids didn't have a fishing pole or tackle box. They got a fishing pole, a tackle box, and all the basic necessities, and it was given
That's
to them.
so cool, man.
And I was able to get grant money and do stuff like that, which is fantastic. And one thing I will say about Mississippi Department of Wildlife and Parks, they have a grant system where you can do stuff like that, and it is fantastic. It's one of the good things they do, and I really appreciate that for them. And I was able to get them grants and help other counties and regions get those grants to start these programs to help grow these fisheries programs. And it was always fantastic for them to watch these people catch their first fish and everything like that. Especially you have a single mom or something like that wanting to bond with their kids or teach them they didn't really know how. And I
Yep.
feel that because my mom taught me how to fish. I was
Yep.
raised pretty much by my mom for a majority of the first part of my life. And
One of the
even
coolest podcasts I've ever seen was when you interviewed your mom.
Oh yeah, dude. So I love my
Such a
mom.
good
Mom,
one.
my mom grew up in a different time. They had to fish for food just to live. Um, the way she grew up, unfortunately, and I'm very blessed of how I am. I get to fish for fun, but I 100% attribute my love to the outdoors to my mom, and it's very special for me because me and her went through a lot. We lived with grandmas and stuff like that. And when we was trying to find our way, we met my stepdad, and it's always been a special thing for me. And my mom, she said one of the greatest days in her life was when I figured out how to bait my own hook and put line on my own rod because she hated putting worms and crickets on, but she did it because she knew I loved it and she wanted to experience the outdoors with me. And I love my mom for that. She inspired a ton of my passion for the outdoors. I got to, when I was older, she started back hunting again. I got to watch her kill some of her deer for the first time since she was a little kid and watch her
Yeah.
experience the outdoors and stuff like that. And I absolutely love it. And she takes I got a 3-year-old, and her and my stepdad take my little boy fishing, one of the little small ponds that my brother in law and them have, and she does it with him, and it's so great, and she's one of the examples I used, and I'm getting a little bit emotional about it, thinking about it. But for these moms and stuff that come up, whether the husband be deployed overseas or something happening, it's a mom wanting to teach their kid the outdoors, to fish and the passion. And it's like, well, I just don't know if I can do it because, I'm a girl. It's like, no, my mom taught me how to fish, and you see where I am. I fish bass for some of the biggest scenes, and people
Yeah,
comment on this
look at
stuff.
everything it created and
Exactly.
how much like of an inspiration that, because like a lot of the moms that come to you with the kids trying to get them to fish, they might really like literally be at like their wits end. Like they might
Yeah.
almost be bringing the kid to fish out of just like pure desperation. And what an inspiring thing to get there feeling like you can't do it and then find out like this whole program exists because a
Oh yeah,
mom took her son fishing. Like it's
it's
incredible,
great.
man.
Um, and if there's any single parents out there or parents who don't know how to teach their kids fishing, don't anything, email me. I don't care if you're 30 states away. I've sent my 4-H program that I wrote here from Mississippi to Nebraska, to New York, and to some other states to help people learn stuff. And I've got some videos on my YouTube, just the basic how-tos, how to tie a knot, how to fillet a fish. Of course, I got my podcast, but I got some basic 4-H videos on there. And, I don't care if people never know who Thad Moody or Thad Moody Outdoors is, but it's just like, with the Charlie thing, if I can help that, inspire that one kid to chase their dreams, because in the fishing world, I'm 34. I'm old. I'm an old head, honestly, when it comes to like ever being professional fishing or making a living like this. It's a hobby of mine. I do it for fun. I
You
do
look
it
young from where I'm sitting.
well, I do it. It's because I shaved. I do it to inspire my kid. But if I can help that one kid or that one family to enjoy the outdoors, and you know, other than my kid growing up to love it, that's all I care about. As long as that one kid goes out and is able to enjoy life or something like that, that's all I care about.
Charlie's dad entered the chat.
Oh yeah.
Charlie, like man, that's going to be such a good example. There's going to come a day where like your bones and my bones hurt. Getting in and out of the kayak is like,
Dude, my
man,
bones
it's a,
already hurt.
yeah, well, true. But there's going to come a day where every time we throw our leg over the kayak, we wonder if it's going to be like the last time we can throw the leg over the kayak. And while we're doing that, Charlie is going to be out there just dominating the fishing scene. He's going to be all over our news feed. Like, he's not just like one of the greatest anglers up and coming. He's just such a good kid.
Oh, he is.
I'm,
It's
I'm working on
fantastic.
his custom identifier now. I started working on it right before the podcast, and just man, I love supporting that kid. And
Oh yeah.
again, it's like part of your program, you know.
Well, and here's the thing: is my biggest hope in this world is um that one day there'll be a kid, like Charlie. You know, his parents take him to a bunch of tournaments. He rides with me to a bunch of tournaments. He has his driver's license now, and you're old, LOL, from a 27-year-old.
Yeah, Ethan talking
um,
smack.
um, he's rode a bunch of tournaments, but I hope one day, when he's my age and there's a young up and coming kid who can't drive yet or something needs help like that, that he passes that on. And I believe he's the kind of person that will.
Oh,
And
100%.
if God forbid something ever happened to me, and that he would take my kid fishing, because my mom's getting up on there in age. My stepdad's almost 80, and yeah, I know it's hard to think about. They won't be around for the rest of my life, and for sure my kid's life. And I just hope that there's someone out there that if something ever happened to me, that they would take that kid fishing, or if there's a kid out there who needed guidance and wants to learn how to fish but has no one to teach them. That what I've done is inspired these other people, these other anglers, the youth, to pass on these lessons to these kids and take them fishing and help them enjoy the outdoors. That's my biggest goal in life, and I hope that's my biggest legacy. Is 100 years from now, be like, well, there was this guy way back in the day who just started a movement. Tucked up going with Uncle Steve. Steve, me and you're the same age, man. We are like a month apart. But
There's a whole lot of people that make sure your son gets to go fishing.
well, that's the thing is my son and anyone else's son who wants to go. I just hope and pray that there's people out there who will continue, who's not the gatekeepers, and that's really been my life goal. And my mom wanted me so bad to be an architect or an accountant because I'm really good with that. I can do advanced trigonometry in my head, calculus, all that stuff, algebra, accounting, all that. But my passion is getting people in the outdoors. My biggest hero growing up was Steve Irwin, who just had this huge passion, the crocodile hunter, for the outdoors. So
Crikey.
my biggest goal in life is to leave a legacy of outdoor enthusiasts and conservationists, and they don't even have to, hunt and fish. But I'm gonna say, quit making. I can't read that. Quit making me cry. Is my biggest goal in life is to leave a legacy of conservation that is spread, and I think that's all we can hope for because the world sucks,
The
but
world
the
does suck.
outdoors can make it way better. I believe if people could just go fishing together, outside of politics, that if they just went fishing together, a lot of the world's problems would be solved.
Yeah, Steve Irwin was actually, I didn't watch a ton of his show. I was obviously aware of who he was, but Steve Irwin was the reason I tried Stingray for the first time, which is fantastic. It kind of tastes like scallops. But so when he died, I caught one like 2 weeks after that, and I was like, I'm gonna eat it in honor as like Steve Irwin. And apparently, a lot of like scallops you get in a restaurant, a lot of those are actually stingray that are just
Yeah,
being
they
called
are.
scallop, which makes sense because they taste the
They
same.
do. Yeah.
And I was
If
on a podcast. I can't remember if it was mine or Roy's. I was on a podcast not long ago where somebody talked about stingray, and I was like, "That's good eating." And somebody was like, "Of course, Steve knows about eating stingray."
Well, I'm one who commented saying a lot of those in restaurants are. That was
Oh,
me that
you said
commented.
it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that
I
was
just
me who
remember
said
seeing.
that.
I remember seeing that comment and thinking, like, "Yeah, I bet that's true because they taste like scallops."
Yeah, they
But
take
like,
like a little cookie thing and cut out the wings. Yeah,
yeah, the wings are just amazing. They're right up there with. I love squid wing too, and octopus. Like, oh, so good.
dude, I love fried calamari. Octopus, I don't know. It was rubbery for me. I'm not a big octopus fan. I do like fried calamari though, with some comeback sauce.
My thing with fishing came from my grandfather, and he would like when he would go out fishing because I grew up on the ocean, and he'd go out fishing. If it was within his legal limit, there wasn't a fish that went back in the water. He ate fish like so much, and we used to eat in my household predominantly wild game and fish. And then 2023, I think was the first year I fished in a bass tournament. My buddy Christian got me sucked in, and I was sitting back the other day. I was working on the RVR, and honestly, I get some of my best clarity is when I'm in the garage with the music or a podcast on, just like rigging a kayak, because I stop thinking about everything else. I'm not thinking about the business. I'm not thinking about the wedding. I'm just kind of I'm envisioning the future trips that kayak will be used for, and like how should I rig it out. And it dawned on me that in the last couple of years, I've harvested some bass. I've harvested a catfish here and there that like I on bycatch or crappie on bycatch. But it has been years since I've gone out and ran limb lines for catfish, or gone out and had a crappie rod with me and intentionally targeted crappie and just like harvested fish for the point of harvesting fish. And so 2026 for me personally is about really dialing back from the tournaments anyway. Like I've got like four, I think, for the whole year that I'm planning to attend. And so my whole theme for 2026 has been get lost, which is mostly centered around chasing smallmouth and finding new places. But I'm just going to harvest so much more fish this year. And I'm going to put out limb lines for catfish and kind of get back to that bring home fish, whether it's cooked fresh or put in the freezer. And, Kelly is not the type that wants to live on a primary diet of like wild game and fish. But my God, do I just want that to become a staple in my household again, where if I
Oh
want
yeah.
to pull out, some fish fillets, and it's kind of like you said, hope somebody takes your kid fishing, your legacy lives on. And I realized I take my grandfather on every fishing trip with that memorial plate that I've got on my source crate, but I'm not fishing in a way that kind of honors the tradition and everything that he instilled in me. And man, it was one of those like lightning strike moments where I was like, this harvesting of more fish goes just hand in hand of what I want my year to be about anyway.
Oh,
And so
100%.
we're gonna harvest a lot more.
My mom, I said, they're probably my biggest supporters next to my wife herself. She's not. I've cooked a lot of wild game dishes, and God bless her soul, she will try them. She's not always the biggest fan of them, but she will try them. and she is probably my biggest supporter. She helped design that my identifier I sent to you. That was her. She helped design all that stuff.
I'm
She,
grabbing something while you're talking because it's like
no,
right
you're
here.
good. She encourages me all the time. She helps me social media. My wife is probably my biggest supporter overall, and I love her to death. And she's not the biggest wild game eater. She will eat some of my the wild deer. She's not big on the gator, but she'll eat some of the fish. She'll eat stuff like that, a little bit of the wild boar every now and then, and she'll try it. And she's very much uh, game for trying it. But I will cook her something else she wants to because I've made some bad deer dishes and stuff.
I have
She
too. I've
Yeah.
gotten to experimental a time or two.
Oh yeah. But it's just like that. She supports me in any way she can. 100%. She'll try the wild game. She'll try living off the land with me and stuff like that. And I got to give her props because she puts up with so much. She opened our deep freeze one day. And there's two alligator heads that I had killed just like looking at them. Scared my
I want
mother
to
in law too.
kill. I want to kill a gator from a kayak so bad.
Dude, if I can pull tags, if you buy the out of state license, come on with it, man. I
I might
tried.
have to. You're
I
not that
tried the
far
May
away.
season. I didn't get one for the May, but I'm gonna try again for the fall season.
Yeah, try for fall. I'm getting married in May. May
Yeah,
is a no fly month for me. Like, are you one of the ones that's going to be in South Carolina when everybody else is in May?
yeah, I'm going the same. Me and Charlie both are going up there.
Yeah, so everybody will be there. I think it's literally the same day as my wedding.
It is. It is 100% the same day as your wedding.
Like Kelly doesn't even know that trip is happening. Like I so did not bring it up. The two things I went and grabbed, I own both volumes for the
Of the
audio
Meat Eater
listeners.
Cookbook.
Yeah, I have
Oh,
both
I've got
volumes
them.
of the Meat Eater cookbooks. And I bet I've only done cumulatively maybe like 10 recipes from both of these just massive books. And I just bought the outdoor cooking book they have
Oh yeah,
because I love cooking over a campfire and they've just got some clever stuff. And they're like, man, 26 is so much about getting back to my roots, like floating down rivers, cooking over fires,
if
harvesting
you can, I
fish.
think you can. I think you can harvest one in Missouri if you ever catch an alligator gar. It has to be an alligator gar. It can't be a long nose, short nose, spotted gar. It has to be an alligator gar. The fillets you can make like a giant hush puppy called a gar ball. They're really good. They cook those out in Louisiana a lot, but it has to be
Boy,
an
wouldn't
alligator
that be
gar.
fun to hook on a kayak?
I'm gonna try chasing some here in Mississippi. There's a small, like a 300-acre lake that's got some 7 and 8. It's like some 6 and 7 footers. I was told by biologists in them, so I'm gonna go try to catch one of those in the kayak.
We have we have a few, but there's a conservation area down south that's basically like a swamp that's got bowfin in it. So I'm kind of waiting till like late spring when we get one of those like heavy flood rains to go down there with some frogs from tactical fishing, some topwater stuff, and see if I can't catch my first bowfin.
So if you want to eat a bowfin, they are delicious. But
That meat just breaks down so fast.
if you're going to cook a bowfin, you have to cook it within. I would say honestly, it needs to be in the grease or the smoker
Yep.
within 15 to 20 minutes of killing that fish.
Yep, got to keep them alive as long as you can. So my general plan, because it's a bit of a drive, and like it'll stay alive in the cooler, but like you can't ever guarantee it'll stay alive till you get home. And then God forbid you get stopped by somebody who mistakes it for a snakehead. You can't transport those alive, or I misidentify a bowfin and it's actually a snakehead. So my general idea is to just try and catch them and take my I have a portable camping kit. I have multiple camping kits, but I have one specific to my kayak that I can cook in the kayak or on the bank, whatever. And I might just have to dispatch one and do some blackened
Yeah, take a
fillets
little
right
Coleman
there.
stove with you or something.
Yeah, or even if I cook them and then, toss them in the car fridge and take them home. But like you said, once you dispatch them, 15, 20 minutes, they turn to mush.
Yeah, it tastes like
Um,
cotton when you eat them.
the alternative is I know that Steve Rinella's got a recipe for him. I know he does it, but Luke from Outdoor Boys, I've seen him do it. He likes to dispatch them, bleed them out, dispatch them, and then he just turns them into fish cakes.
Yeah, that's
He
good
puts the
too.
whole thing in the blender.
Joe Cermele, he did the he does the Cut and Retime podcast, but he did he did a thing with Meteor for a while, him and Miles Nolte, but he also has a thing on YouTube. They do a lot of stuff too. It's when he was like the youngest ever, publications manager for Outdoor Life or Field and Stream or something like that too. But he's got some great recipes for like bowfin and snakehead and stuff like that.
I know who
And
you're talking about because he's definitely been on Meat Eater and the Outdoor Life. That I remember him being on there.
yeah, he ran their fishing podcast, and then there Das Boat. He was like one of the head people for Das Boat and stuff like that for season two.
Das Boat was such a cool, like, okay, if anybody listening or watching has never seen Das Boat, go to the Meat Eater YouTube channel and go watch that series. Basically, what they did is they took a boat and then it traveled around the country to different groups of anglers in their circle, and each person modified it like a different way to do something different with it. It was really cool, really awesome series. But
Oh yeah,
John, you also said, I listen to Meat Eater podcast every day while fishing. Man, I have literally listened to every Meat Eater podcast there is, and every time I finish them, I start over because I swear to God, it doesn't matter how many times I listen to each episode or the trivia, I learn stuff every time. But there's a way with Meat Eater that kind of like circles me back around the center because with my content, the business, life, you get off on all these like different tangents and things become like your passion of the moment. And Steve and Giannis and Brody, they all have this way of just like bringing you back to a neutral. It's probably one of the most underrated media like networks in the world.
oh
I
yeah.
just love those
I'm a big
guys.
fan of Cal.
I
He
love
recently left.
Cal.
He recently left Meat Eater. He's head of that big conservation agency now. But
BLM.
yeah, I haven't honestly listened to Meat Eater in probably 6 or 7 months, just because I got so burnt out. But now that I'm working outside again a ton, I can listen to 3 or 4 podcasts a day. So I'm getting back to
Mhm.
listen to some of their stuff. The trivia. Me and my buddies had the circle group, and we'd see who always did the best in trivia. And I got multiple perfect games, but again, I have a background. What I always did horrible with was the cooking stuff. I horrible with the cooking part of that trivia.
See, I do decent with the cooking. Like I typically fall right in line with the Shelby Index, which can sometimes be embarrassing. But like the cooking is usually where I do really well. It's the state park questions that always get me messed up. And
Yeah.
like one of them, I just listened to an older trivia episode, and it was what state park is the smallest? Like what state is it from? And it
It's
was like
Missouri.
90. Yeah, it was like 90 acres. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, man, it's got
That's
to
hold
be
on.
like,
It's
yeah, you'll figure it out. I won't tell you where it
it's
is
the
yet.
arch, ain't it?
It's the arch.
Yeah.
So they're going through it, and I'm like, it's got to be like New Jersey or Rhode Island, and I'm like, I don't think Rhode Island has any state parks. And I'm like, I'm going with New Jersey, and then they're like, St. Louis, Missouri. It's the arch, and I'm like, that stupid freaking arch.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I
who
think
knew that
that's
was the
like I
state
think
park?
it's the federal. It's like the smallest federal park or something like
It
that.
is. And Steve made a very good point. He's like, how is that not a monument? And so, but what always gets me with the arch, and I think Brody said it, is he's like, everybody makes a big deal of you have to go in the arch. You got to take the elevator ride to the top. And he's like, but then you get to the top, and what you can see is Western Illinois, St. Louis, and industrial buildings. Woo.
Well,
It's
see,
like,
I
it's
like
so
going down to
true.
the museum in the bottom. There's a huge, like, the Western Museum and stuff in the bottom of it.
I've never been in there. I have
Yeah,
been to St. Louis plenty of times, and I have been on the walk that's kind
yeah.
of like
The
not
river
right
walk.
under it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I've never actually been to
So
the
there's
art.
like huge Western Museum up under, like full stuff, buffaloes, bears, everything. It's really cool. Missouri has two. They got that one, and then this is gonna sound really cliche, but the giant Bass Pro Museum, like outdoor museum in Springfield, Missouri.
Is that the pyramid?
No, the pyramids in Memphis.
Oh,
This
because I
is
keep
like
saying I want to go to the one that's got like I think it is here in Missouri where like it's the museum, and then they have that place where like all the mounts and everything are.
that's the museum. That's in Springfield. And it's got like all the world. It's got either the original or a replica of every world record of every species ever.
Yeah,
And
I really want
there's
to go
huge
there.
museums and it. It's like a redneck paradise. It really is super education. I went to it as a kid before they redid everything, and after they redid everything, it's even bigger and better. But like I went to it
Mhm.
as a kid, and it was absolutely phenomenal and amazing.
See, and that's how I know I'm marrying the right woman because that would not be ranked high on the things she would want to do, but she would go do that with me 100%.
Oh
Like
yeah,
she wouldn't even,
dude.
she'd be like,
Same
okay,
with my
cool.
wife because she knows my kid loves the outdoors and loves fish and stuff like that in the aquariums, and she would do it in a heartbeat because she knows that's our passion. And again, that's how you know you married the right one because she is like
Mhm.
that. Um, but
I want
yeah,
to get Kelly out in the kayak more this year. I kind of ruined it last time. So Kelly's been out in the kayaks with me a total of 2 times, which is a little hard to think about because we've been together for almost 4 years. The first time she went, her and my daughter both have like sit inside sun dolphins or whatever. And then I've got the RVR and I just sold the PWR to my buddy. I have the Titan will be here. But so I took the RVR and the two sit inside kayaks and I took them to a river. There's no flow going. Super
yeah.
shallow river, no flow. I checked ahead of time. There's no flow. I went and physically looked at it. We get down there and we launch and it's flowing a little bit. And Kelly was like, I thought there wasn't any flow. I'm like, no, it's fine. Well, we're going upriver because then we're going to float back down because it's just a single vehicle put in. So like a half an hour in, the flow like
That's
quadruples.
up. Oh,
So to me, I can see that the flow has increased, but the difficulty in the RVR 119 has not. Like that thing against current, you paddle 2 or 3 times and it just glides over it. It's so effortless. I look over at one point, I realize she is just constantly paddling and her back is bothering her. She's mad and I'm just gliding over like it's nothing. So then I
oh,
tried to switch kayaks with her. And by that point, she was over it. And she's like, nope, this is my kayak. This is what you put me in. So she has not been out. She didn't go out last year. This was the year before. So 2024. She hasn't been out since. And she would go more, but she really loves bringing up that story. So
so
I think the next time I'm going to put her in the Titan and be like, you can just pedal. Here you go.
yeah. I will say this one thing I missed from Missouri is floating. So when I was doing the bear biology up there, we worked 6 days on and 4 off. And there's this older gentleman who, and this is kind of a funny story. It shows you how small the world is. There's an older gentleman who really wasn't keen on us doing stuff on his land. So I'm a people person, as you know. I can talk to anybody. What's up, Caleb? And I went to talk to him to get permission to use his land. Well, I saw a tattoo on his arm. I was like,
Mhm.
you're in Operation Deep Freeze down in Antarctica. He's like, how did you know that? I was like, well, my grandfather was down there after World War II, between World War II and Korea. He's like, yeah, him and my grandfather were on the same destroyer. There's only one destroyer down there, an icebreaker down there. And after that, he let us use his canoes and kayaks, and he would actually drop us off on one part of the river and leave us a pickup vehicle, like after an 8 mile float, his own personal vehicle, and leave it there for us. And we used to float those rivers in Missouri all the time like that because of that man, just talking to him and being nice to him and feeling all that stuff. And one of my favorite things to do in Missouri because just water, here, you might as well be fishing or swimming in sweet tea. I would take
It's
swim.
like that here a lot of the time too, but
Well,
only
I would take
sometimes.
goggles with me, and I still do in my kayak in case I lose a bait and have to go down there and get it because I'm a big diver, scuba diver, spearfisher. I used to before we'd fish an area, I would take my goggles and go down and look and see what all fish was there. Like you had 10, 20 foot
Hmm.
of visibility in a lot of places. Like that's a giant smallie. I will try to catch it. So I caught the
There,
first smallie. I was like, the original live scope was my scuba goggles.
there's places here where sometimes I don't even take the fishing rods. I literally just take the snorkel and some trash bags and stuff. And the primary reason is like, oh, I'm just going to go do like a cleanup day. But man, sometimes I just like getting down there and seeing what they're doing. Like you get into these little eddies and stuff and get your arm around a log and you're just sitting there breathing with the snorkel. And after, I mean, they just go back to business as usual. And it's
Oh
a
yeah.
really good opportunity to like watch them and, uh,
Let me tell you something fun to do is there's a rock quarry in Alabama, Pelham, just out of Birmingham, you can take and go dive in. It's super cool. And I've learned you can do this in Missouri too. You can take a can of Cheese Whiz down there with you, and you can squirt that Cheese Whiz everywhere, dude. They will swarm you, like all the big brim and stuff. They're like Cheese Whizzing it everywhere, and just brim just swarm. They're like piranhas.
such a Midwest thing to do. Can of cheese whiz from the dollar store. Alex Purrs, is the Titan ordered yet or what?
Oh,
So
good question.
the short answer is no, but like any day here. So I'm buying it from Festive Water Paddle Sports over there in Cumming, Georgia. That really is the city name. I'm not making that up. But I got my final number from them. I know how much I got to pay them. I have the money. I'm waiting for like one or two things to reconcile, and then we're pulling the trigger. And I'm gonna pull the trigger on a Gray Goose. I'm getting the pedal drive, but I've told Nathan, like, listen, when the time comes, yeah, there's a Titan. I told Nathan when the time comes, if I say Gray Goose and it's gonna be a longer wait than like Wave Strike, just give me Wave Strike.
Dude, Wave
Because
Strike's where it's at. Grey Goose gets kind
well,
of hot. Wave Strike still get, like if you look at the Wave Strike, like mine's got a lot of black and stuff on it. Um, and the Grey Goose gets hot. Wave Strike will get kind of hot too.
see,
Um,
I'm used to. I have a black dark gray kayak now, so I'm kind of used to that. For me, the holdup on the Wave Strike was just there's more ability with vinyl and stuff with the darker colored. But the reality is, I don't think I'm going to put any vinyl on it. Like, I love the idea of having the Trash Panda decals. The standard is here, like down the side and all that. But like at the same time, I kind of this sounds like I'm bigger than I am, and I don't mean it that way, but I found towards the end of last year that people knowing, like my Jeep with the rooftop tent and everything is already pretty recognizable, but there's definitely people that were like, oh, Steve Billington fishing's at this spot. And then like I'd see the comments and they message me like, oh, I know where you were fishing today. And I'm not a huge fan of that. Um, I think I
dude,
probably need to dial back and be a little more
it
incognito.
does get kind of weird. You know, I had to get that new truck, and I didn't put any like my sponsors on the back. I did put the Thad Moody Outdoors thing, and I've had it's cool when like a parent tells you like, hey, my kid watch your YouTube, we follow you on Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that, and drinking Grey Goose. um,
Yeah, I don't know, but I can tell you after a whole ale horn of
oh,
whiskey and Dr. Pepper, I'm a little sideways. I'm not gonna lie.
same. Um,
My
so
face
and
is
like
red.
when the kids wanted a picture of me, get me to sign a hat. And that's really really cool. I had like when my truck was messed up, and I had my flashing hazards on, and I was having to limp it to the mechanic. I got a message on TikTok. Hey, saw you limping your truck down the highway. Is everything okay? And I was like, that's kind of creepy. Um,
Yeah, man, it's weird when you start getting recognized.
oh, I was
And
driving
like
down
I don't mind it, but
yeah, I mean, I don't mind it too much either. I was driving on a 4 lane, and I had someone say like, "Oh, I saw you in Jackson, Mississippi today." I was going to do a program with I'm partnered with Lawrence Fish Finders. I was going to do a program for them down there, and it
mhm.
was it was crazy. Hey, my buddy, he works in the marine electronics down at the Bass Pro, and what's that? Gotta watch out for them hole buzzers. Oh yeah. But he's like, dude, I just had someone come and ask me. He's like, oh, he's watching, this guy called Thad Moody Outdoors. He's doing this, and he's talking about this kind of electronic. We want to look at it. He sent me a message. He goes, he just like give me crap about it. I was like, yeah, dude, it gets weird after. Sometimes it's cool, with a kid, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's like creepy.
Like I don't mind being recognized. And honestly, I'm recognized far more for Trash Panda decals now than I ever am for like my fishing content. I don't mind it. I like it. I think it's cool when people come up to me, especially kids, and I like giving them some of my baits and stuff. Um, but like I don't know when my Jeep is just parked somewhere, my kayak just goes by somebody. It's almost kind of reached that level where like I don't care if they recognize me. I don't know that I need to scream it at them though. Um, and I had a moment. You know what? I won't even go into that one because it's a little bit of spot burning. But there's there's definitely some different feelings about it, and I don't like when people jump on my like YouTube channel because I don't delete comments for the most part. I don't care if they're negative. I'm all about the engagement. But every now and then somebody will drop on a video and they're like, I know where you were because I saw your Jeep parked at XYZ and it says Steve Billington fishing on it. And I have to go delete the comment because I might not want people to know that's where I was that day. And so
Yeah.
I don't have vinyl. on anything. There's still some on the rooftop tent because I needed to be warmer to get it off of there, but I don't know that I'm going to do the vinyl at all. So I don't think the color matters so much. And I asked Kelly what she thought. I was like, here's Gray Goose, here's Wave Strike, because I like her opinion about stuff. And she's like, well, the blue one kind of looks like Christian's kayak because he's got a Perception Outlaw. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, not for long because he bought the PWR, which is Top Gun or whatever they call it. So his is about to look like the Gray Goose Titans. I was like, well, maybe I do want to wait. I don't know. It's going to come down to when I pay, which one I can get faster.
Yeah, but yeah,
So like,
availability. And yeah,
yeah.
I like blue. My wife likes blue. She's like I love your blue eyes. So I'm a big blue guy. Um, and I really like it. I do like putting the people who help me do stuff like the Spear Point and the Redfin sunglasses. I like putting their stuff on it. I have at Thad Moody Outdoor, so like when pictures are taken of stuff, it's on there.
Mhm.
I've honestly, I really like the Thad Moody Outdoors on my truck. I've thought about taking it off just because it is kind of creepy. I do I start to park my truck backwards so that people from the road can't see my name because I live in the middle of a big neighborhood. Uh,
Hey, that's an interesting approach. I've got all my sponsors on my, at least for the tournaments, on my tin tag now. So like I don't know that I need them. They're in all my fish photos, but then on like the flip side of that, this year, like I have two different. I mean, I'm obviously blessed to be able to do it, but I have multiple tin tags. So like I've got my primary tin tag, which I plan to use for all my fun fishing, which is just my brand. It's literally a Trash Panda decals tin tag. And then when I fish events, I've got all my sponsors and affiliates and stuff on there. And then I was like, well, I don't need to have it all over the kayak because I got it on the identifier. But then I realized the majority of my fishing will be fun fishing. And then I'm just promoting my own brand, which obviously, nobody has a problem with. But I almost wonder if I'm not giving enough exposure to the affiliates. And those relationships are super important to me because all of my brands that I work with are smaller brands and it's so mutually beneficial. Like Source Crate is a great example. Joshua's got a small company. It's Source Made now just because he's branched out from more than just the crates. I got to stop calling it Source Crate. But so like Source Made with his crate and steering and stuff, it's such an organic relationship because I love the product. So I talk about them, I show them, I help people with them. And I reached out to him the other day and was like, hey, I got a Titan coming. So I'm going to leave the Source steer on the PWR for my buddy. I'm going to need a new set and some other stuff from me. So I'm going to order that soon. And he was like, no, I got you. And the shipment's on the way because
yeah,
he sees people use my discount code and stuff and he knows. But like, it feels great to me, not because I got free stuff, but like, I know that my content and everything has made enough of an impact to his small business that he's willing to just be like, hey, I'm going to help you out. And I see it in my brand with the people that back me. Like John Wilson's in the chat tonight. John Wilson's one of my biggest cheerleaders. I love that dude. Constantly tagging the brand, talking about the brand. And so I'm torn with how the Titan's going to get set up because I don't want there to be a decline in the exposure of my affiliates and stuff. And at the same time, when people see me at a boat ramp, I don't want them to think I'm a big deal, which kind
yeah,
of goes directly against the last several years of my life.
yeah. And I feel that of course, tactical fishing and people like that. I love working with them and promoting them. The Redfin Polarized is a great example. There's some guys from my church who's seen it on my yak because I go fishing at church some days. They've seen it on my truck or they see me wearing them and they've bought some. And I don't have a code to give out, but they know, in Mississippi, people can order it. It's either people seeing my stuff or a lot of times they're buying from the one spot up in Tupelo that sells them, the one dealer, and it's really cool. Like I was fishing on Gunnersville, and I don't know if you know who he's a big opens guy fishing the classic this year, Laker Howell. It's Randy Howell, the elite angler's son.
So Randy is a name I recognize.
Yeah, and he saw the redfin on my kayak. He's like, "Man, you like your redfins?" I was like, "Yeah, I love them." I was like, I picked them up. They've sent me stuff. Promoting each other, yada yada yada. Because anytime I share anything, and even if I don't tag them, a lot of times they'll just share my stuff or like it, promote me. And he's like, oh, and his buddy, is one of the owners of the company, and it's where weird thing. I'm sitting on the kayak, pre-fishing. He's a part-time guide, but he fishes the opens and the elite series and stuff like that. And we had a good conversation and talking about it. Just he saw my stuff and I saw his stuff, and it was it's a cool connection we made like that. He just saw me repping them.
Hmm.
And I really think it's a good way to start it. My partnership with the Rants is different than any of my other partnerships.
Oh, I'm
And
sure. Talk
yeah,
about a big brand.
yeah, and like I'm going the 8th of March to do at the Bass Pro Shop in Jackson, Mississippi, to do a beginners electronics seminar and then an advanced front facing sonar seminar for them, putting that on there. And this Saturday I'm going to speak at that conference, how to grow youth sport fishing, but I will have, the brands who supported me there, they'll be in my stuff because they also, a lot of them will donate stuff to the 4-H programs.
Which is awesome.
Tactical Fishing and Andrew, they sponsored, the first place in the 4-H youth fishing contest this last year.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, I know, and I love to promote brands like that. And even if I sever ties with like Redfins or Tactical Fishing or someone like that, they did away with their pro staff or promotionary staff like that, and I would 100% still promote them just because I know what kind of people they are.
100%. And like so many people, like you and I can both think of an example right now. Like there's some people that'll be like, I saw a post the other day, and the post it's about a paragraph long, and it just started out with how it was talking about like the simplicity of kayak fishing and like detaching and the basics, and the whole theme was how simple kayak fishing was. And then it wrapped up with the XTR is the greatest kayak ever. And so there's so many people that just like push products, and you can see it within the first couple seconds of a video, especially. You're just like, oh, they're trying to sell me something. And it just so takes away from it. And then there's brands like Tactical Fishing is a great one, where those of us that are on that promotional team, we don't hit you with, here is the MRE from Tactical Fishing, go buy it. It's the greatest thing ever and makes your kayak fishing better. It's more like you see it organically in our content. Like I love the freaking MRE. I'm going to hide one of those things in my pocket and my tux when I'm getting married. Lord help me if my wife finds it in there. She's going to kill me. But like that MRE has just like, it's not even the fish that it catches. The MRE changed my life. I saw it on a Facebook ad. I thought it was really wacky and wild. And so I reached out to Andrew and was like, hey, do you ever do like sample packs? Because, I mean, let's be honest, we see a million fishing baits a day in
Oh
our
yeah.
news feed. Fishing baits have become like photographers, where everybody that's got a mold off the shelf thinks they're a bait maker, and everybody who's got a camera thinks they're a photographer. So like you never know one from the other. And he hit me back immediately. It was like, hey, I don't really do that, but like here's a coupon for, 20% off, or I'll throw some stuff in your first order, whatever it was. And so I bought some, and I started using that MRE, and I started catching fish, and just then not long after you caught your big one, and that's when I learned about underspins. But like the point is it became this bait that I love organically, because that bait didn't change fishing. That bait changed my life. That bait, that bait literally, it put me on different fish, gave me a different way of fishing, created different content, but ultimately it brought me into the tactical fishing family that we're in. And that group chat that we're in, the thing that group chat for tactical fishing is about the least is tactical fishing.
Oh yeah.
Like that group chat has to do with everything but tactical fishing and the baits, except for when Andrew needs feedback.
Oh
But
yeah.
that group chat has helped develop products, marketing plans, content, make friends like, you and I. And the amount of difference my life is today than a year ago, a lot of that has to do with the MRE from tactical fishing and the way that Andrew has like built that company. So those relationships mean just a ton. Like there's so many people, they'll list their sponsors and you're like, yeah, 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 okay. And like when I sit back and look at my sponsors, I have intimate relationships with all of them that have changed my life. It is just so freaking cool to
Oh
be able to
yeah.
work with
The
companies like
funniest thing
that.
about the underspin and the MRE is I was like, hey man, I fished an underspin. He goes, well, it's not really made for an underspin. I don't think it's gonna swim well. And then I sent him multiple like 20+ inch fish, and then that 24 3/4 inch fish I caught on it. He's like, oh, maybe it
Uh-huh.
is good for an underspin.
Yeah, I listen, you caught those on an underspin. I had never heard of an underspin before. The first event, no, not the first event last year, but I went back to Mazingo Lake, which is a lake here in Missouri that tortured me and continues to torture a lot of people. And I got a limit and actually did better than a buddy of mine who is like a really low key hammer. And I caught all my fish on that underspin that I had never used before. I literally tied on an underspin with the MRE. I had it in the kayak. You told me how great it was going to work and how to use it there. And I threw some other stuff. And I remember looking at it and being like, I don't even know a thing about that lure. I don't know how to fish it the right way, the wrong way. I'm going to throw it out. And I put that thing up against a tree. And within like 3 casts, I had the first fish of the day. And then another and another. And that underspin has been tied on nonstop ever since.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I love that thing. It replaced chatterbait. I barely threw a chatterbait last year. I was too busy throwing the dang underspin. What did John Wilson said? The fishing world is so much more than just fishing. I've learned that more and more over the past year. So right.
Oh,
Like fishing
100%.
is almost a byproduct. I can tell I got a good buzz going because I get louder when I get a buzz going, and I can see the meter telling me to be quiet. But yeah, fishing, man, it's changed my life. And like Trash Panda Decals has been a wild ride. So like last year, I launched the company and came up with a basic tin tag, and then the double up series came along. And I actually just shared a post the other day. It was the double down series originally.
Yeah, I
And it
saw that.
Yeah, it changed within like a few days. And when all that was happening, I didn't know where the company would go. And more importantly, I didn't know if people would circle back around for year two. And boy, let me tell you, the last 30 days has been humbling and quite frankly, exhausting.
I bet, dude. I'm feeling it right now. That rum's hitting hard.
Well, we're at an hour 46, which I kind of looked up at the timer a few minutes ago and I was like, man, we went from 45 minutes to an hour and 45 real fast.
Oh yeah, we did. It'd be good conversation. It's easy to get lost in good conversation though.
Yeah, I told Kelly, I was like, I'm going to aim for like 8:30. But I also forgot to say, hey, I've got a flogging of rum over here or whiskey. You've got rum, I got whiskey.
Yeah.
So I think we'll wind it down before I finish off the last.
Oh, I
Well, there
finished
ain't
mine
much
off.
left.
I finished mine off.
There,
Within the first hour. This is a big glass too.
there,
The other
there
thing,
ain't much left.
yeah.
There ain't much
Say my
left in
camera.
mine, but mine is about 3 gulps away from the filter being broken, and we don't need that.
So this is actually a beer flask we sold to raise money for the American Fishery Society in college. I helped design that skeletonized crappie on the front when I was the treasurer for
That's yeah. Skeletonized crappie is a cool logo,
them. Yeah.
but
Well, man, I appreciate you having me on. I've really enjoyed tonight.
yeah, it's been fun. We had like 22 people watching at one point, and we're at 8 now. And what I've learned over the last 2 episodes is that once it hits the podcast, it really starts to gain traction there. So
Heck yeah.
every episode seems to gain more, and this is a really good one. And I think people are going to learn some stuff from it, which
Yeah.
is always a plus. I definitely learned from it.
Well, cool. That's my goal. And I say, if y'all want to find me, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, everything's just Thad Moody Outdoors. That's me.
Yep, and we'll put that in the show notes for the if you're listening on audio, you'll be able to find that there also. So, especially if you're like a single mom or something that needs some guidance, reach out. Thad's definitely like an endless resource of getting kids into fishing.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's all about the kids, getting them out there, getting them
Oop.
fishing, and getting the next generation up there.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
All right, everybody who watched tonight, I appreciate you. We're gonna go ahead and end the live stream, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. And if you're listening on audio, don't forget to follow us. And you can always check out the lives Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Central. Thanks for watching.